Welcome to this English vocabulary masterclass. Are you ready to boost your English vocabulary skills so that you can express yourself better when you speak? Well, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Vanessa from speakenglishwithvanessa.com, and today, over the next 2 hours, you are going to learn over 250 real-life English vocabulary phrases. These are phrases that are used all the time in real English conversations. These are not old-fashioned, these are not super academic or very professional. These are words for daily life. This is a record-breaking video. Usually I create a free PDF worksheet for you for each of my new English lessons on this channel. But today, because there are so many wonderful vocabulary phrases, I have created a free vocabulary ebook. If you would like to speak advanced, fluent, real English, you can download this vocabulary ebook in the description. There is a link in the description that you can click on and download it for free. You will have access to all of this lesson's vocabulary, definitions, sample sentences, and at the bottom of this ebook, there is a 20-question quiz. That's right. You can test yourself and see if you remember accurately all that you learned over the next 2 hours. Do you think you can do that? I think you can. You can click on the link in the description to download this free masterclass vocabulary ebook. All right, let's get started with the first vocabulary lesson. You are going to learn 36 essential daily life phrases in just 8 minutes. Let's go. Look, squint, stare, glare. I look at my neighbor's house. I squint in his windows. I stare at him. He glares back at me. Drink, swallow, sip, chug. I usually drink tea in the morning. After I drink tea, I swallow it. I sip the tea because it's so hot. Whew. I chug the tea because I'm so thirsty and I have no time. Eat, nibble, gobble up, devour. I want to eat a blueberry muffin. I'm not very hungry, so I think I will just nibble the muffin. But now I'm really hungry. I will gobble the whole muffin up. These muffins are so good. I think I will devour 2 more muffins. Clean, tidy up, wash, scrub. We need to clean the house today. First, I tidy up the clothes. I will wash the dirty laundry. My husband Dan scrubs the bathroom floor. Lay down, lounge, recline, sprawl out. Oh, I'm so tired. I'm going to lay down for a nap. At the end of the day, I lounge with a book. My husband Dan reclines in the chair. My cat is sprawled out on the chair. He looks so comfortable. Dry, parched, withered. The plant looks dry. The soil is parched.
The whole plant is withered. Water, mist, spray, drench. I need to water the plant. I mist the leaves. I spray the whole plant. I drench the soil. Breathe, sigh, gasp, pant. I breathe the fresh air. I sigh at the beautiful scenery. What a nice day. I gasp when I think I see a bear. It was just a stump. I gasp. I pant as I push the heavy wheelbarrow up the hill. Learn, take in, absorb, master. You learn the differences between similar words. You take in the different meanings. You absorb the knowledge like a sponge, and you master all of these wonderful expressions.
Great work! Let's go on to the next lesson where you will learn some essential phrases to express that you understand or don't understand something. Let's go.
These 20 phrases fit into 4 categories: asking someone for information, making sure that you understand something, politely interrupting a conversation, and finally, politely agreeing or disagreeing with someone. Let's start with our first category. When you're asking for information, you can say, "What's that? What's this?" But this is really basic, and there are a lot of more common expressions that we use. Do you happen to know what time the meeting is? Beautiful. Do you happen to know? This is a little bit indirect, but it is beautiful. Do you have any idea if Katie is coming to dinner tomorrow? Do you have any idea? This is simply asking, do you know if Katie is coming? But we can use this word idea. Do you have any idea if Katie's coming to dinner tomorrow? I'd like to know if Katie is coming to dinner. I'd like to know if. This doesn't seem like a question, right? There's not a question mark, but you're asking for more information without it being a direct question. I'd like to know if Katie's coming tomorrow for dinner. Maybe I'll have to send her a message. I'd like to know if. You might hear someone say, "I'm wondering if those reports about the marketing plan are finished. I'm wondering if those reports are finished." If your boss says this, it means that he or she is trying to be indirect and asking, are they finished yet? But instead of directly asking that, they kind of indirectly say, "I'm wondering if they are finished." It doesn't seem like a question, but it is, and they're asking for more information to know, are the reports done? So if your boss says to you, "Hey, I'm wondering if those reports will be done by 3 o'clock. You can say, "Yes, they will be done by 3 o'clock. Or maybe, nope, they won't. All right, let's go to our next category. The second category is checking for understanding, checking to see if someone else understands you or if you understand them correctly. So when someone asks you these questions, you want to make sure that you respond accurately. Whether you are giving directions or telling a complex story, you want to make sure that other people can understand because you don't want to get to the end of the conversation and the other person or you says, "Huh?" It's quite disheartening. So I want to make sure that you can use these expressions to check along the way to make sure that you are being understood. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you're talking about something that is annoying you or close to your heart. Let's imagine that your child is having problems going to bed at night and it's really frustrating for you, so you're talking with your husband about it. Maybe this is similar to my life. And you say, "Oh yeah, it's so tough. Why won't he just sleep? I'm so annoyed." You know what I mean? And here I am asking to see if he understands how I feel. Did you notice that I cut off the first question word, do? The full question is, do you know what I mean? But we often just say, you know what I mean? And you want the other person, ideally, to say, yes, I understand what you mean. I understand how you're feeling. They might say, no, I really don't. And then you realize, okay, I need to explain in a different way, or we're just on different pages. But this is a great question to ask. Do you know what I mean? Or you can ask, are you following? Maybe if you're telling some complex sets of directions about how to fill in this paperwork to get a visa, and you're telling your friend, oh, first you got to do this, then you got to go over here, and it's quite complex, and their eyes start to look like this. We say their eyes glaze over. You might say, are you following? Means, are you following these directions? And they might say, sorry, I lost you a long time ago. Or maybe their eyes are not glazing over. Instead, they're saying, yes, okay, all right. But you know that your directions are pretty complicated, so maybe they should write things down, but they're not. You might ask them, got it? That means, do you understand? Are you following my directions? Are you getting it? This is another meaning of the word get, which means to understand. I get you. This means I understand you. I understand how you're feeling. And in answer to this, if someone says, got it? You might say, got it. So you can just respond with the same phrase. If someone's telling you something complicated and at the end they say, did you understand? Or they say, got it? You can say, yep, got it. Let's go back to my previous example about my son having difficulties falling asleep. Well, when I'm talking to my husband about it, I might say, well, we need to make some changes in his nighttime routine to help him sleep better, or maybe changes in our daily routine to help him wind down and feel more tired at the end of the day. I could ask him, are we on the same page? We're not reading something, but this just means, do we have the same ideas? Do you agree with me that we need to change something so that he can sleep? Do you understand what I'm saying? Are we on the same page? This is very important for relationships. You absolutely need to be on the same page as your partner for a lot of stuff, but you can even use this at work if you're talking about a project that you're working on. You want to make sure that everyone in the team is on the same page, understands the same thing. So you might say, all right, everyone, are we on the same page? Everyone understands what we're doing now? Are we on the same page? All right, let's do it. Our next category are polite interruptions. This could be in real daily life conversations where you need to interrupt someone, or it could be on a Zoom call when someone's internet cuts out and you need to tell them something, but you want to tell them it politely, or maybe they say something and they got some information wrong about your marketing meeting, so you need to interrupt them before they continue. You want to do that politely. What can you say? Here's some ideas. You might say, excuse me, may I have a word? Excuse me, great way to introduce this. May I have a word? This is not just one word. This means, can I say something? Can I interrupt you and say something? So you might say, excuse me, may I have a word? You can use this when you knock on your boss's door and you want to tell him something. Knock, knock, knock. Excuse me, may I have a word? Great, that means you got to tell him something, usually something brief and short. Do you mind if I jump in here? Jump in means interrupting. You're not literally jumping, but we can imagine that idea that someone else is talking and you are jumping or cutting or interrupting in the middle of what they're saying. But this is very polite. Do you mind if I jump in there? Do you mind if I jump in here? I want to say something that is important right now. Do you mind if I jump in here? Sorry, I didn't catch that. Is it possible to repeat that last point? This is especially if it's something organized where someone is giving a presentation or they're trying to tell you some steps and you missed the last thing they said. You could use this whole phrase. Sorry, I didn't catch that. Means I didn't understand that. Can you repeat that last point? Or you can shorten this even further and just say, I'm sorry. Notice my head here, it's tilting. I'm sorry. That means I didn't get it, but this is really polite because you're apologizing for not understanding, and you can just say this, I'm sorry, and they'll be able to repeat what they said. And finally, our more direct question you can say is, do you mind if I interrupt you? you're still using this polite expression, do you mind if, but you're using a clear word, interrupt. If someone is speaking, do you mind if I interrupt you? I want to share something that's relevant to this exact point before we move on to something else. Do you mind if I interrupt you? Great. Our final category of common daily phrases for daily conversation are different ways to agree or disagree with someone. Let's start with agreeing. For one-word responses, strong agreement, you can say totally, absolutely, right. Great, you strongly agree. English is the most fun language to learn. You might say totally, absolutely, right. For partly agreeing with someone, you can use these slightly longer phrases. I see your point, but this means, yeah, okay, I understand where you're coming from. I understand your point of view, but I disagree. So if someone says, skiing is the best sport in the world, you might say, well, I see your point, but I really would rather play basketball. It's warm outside, you can be on a team. Okay, you're agreeing with them, that's polite, but you're also showing your point of view. Or if someone again says, skiing is the best sport in the world, you might say, I'm not so sure about that. Here you're just kind of partly agreeing, not 100%. Say, well, I'm not so sure. Do you see this kind of indirect language? I'm not so sure. You could say, I'm sure about it, 100%, I'm sure. But here they say, I'm not so sure about that. I would really rather play basketball. I'm not so sure about it. Very polite way of partially agreeing. Our final three phrases are for disagreeing. Let's imagine that you really do like basketball more than skiing. You could say, that's not always true. Skiing is dangerous. Skiing is really cold. Yeah, that's not always true. Or you might say, I don't agree. I don't think so. This is pretty clear, but you know what? Sometimes you just gotta get your point across. I don't agree. Basketball's better. I don't think so. Basketball is better. This is my opinion. I disagree, and that's just the way it is.
Great work. Let's go on to the next lesson where you will learn some quick phrases that we use in daily life. Let's go.
Phrase number 1 is gotcha. Gotcha can be used in 2 different ways. Let's start with the first one. The first one is just to show that you understand. For example, if your friend went on a date and that date was terrible, everything went wrong, and your friend says, you know what, I don't think I'm going to go on a second date with him. You might say, gotcha. And that simply means, I understand. We are connecting on a deep level because I understand what you mean. I wouldn't want to go on a second date with him either. Gotcha. The second way to use gotcha is to surprise someone, usually with some kind of trick. So let me give you a quick example. On my husband's birthday, in the morning, we said, happy birthday, it's your birthday. And then I said, oh no, I forgot to buy you a present. And he said, well, I guess it's okay. Everyone forgets sometimes. And then I said, gotcha, here's your present. So I tricked him. This is a very light and silly way. It's not a serious situation. But I said, gotcha, I tricked you. He believed that I didn't get him a present. So I can use this fun expression and say, gotcha. Quick and easy phrase number 2 is never mind. Never mind. This often means forget about it or it doesn't matter. And usually we use this when something is too long or complicated to explain, or we just don't want to talk about it anymore. Let me give you 2 examples. My mom and I were at a cafe looking at a chocolate cake and a chocolate chip cookie. We said, which one should we get? Oh, chocolate cake, that looks so good. Oh, that chocolate chip cookie, that also looks good. And I said, never mind, let's get both. So here, I didn't want to go into a long explanation. Which one should we get? Oh, let's talk about the pros and cons. Now, never mind. Let's just get both of them. Or have you ever been in this situation where someone asks you for directions? So the other day, my friend asked me, hey, where's the nearest grocery store? And I tried to explain to her, and I said, never mind. Just use Google Maps. It's a lot easier. So I didn't want to explain to her how to get to the grocery store. It would be much easier and much more simple to just look at Google Maps. So I said, never mind, don't listen to my explanation. No, it's too confusing. It doesn't matter. Forget about it. Forget what I said. Just look at Google Maps. Never mind. Quick and easy phrase to sound more fluent, number 3, is gotta go or gotta run. Let's talk about the full expression first. The full grammatical expression is I have got to go. I have got to run. But we don't really use it like that. This just means I need to leave. But we often reduce this to I've gotta go. So we make a contraction with I have, I've gotta go. Or I've gotta run, but sometimes we cut out the verb have completely and just say, I gotta go, I gotta run. And a quick little pronunciation tip is that in American English, a T that is surrounded by vowels often changes to a D sound. So listen carefully when I say that phrase. If I say, oh, it's already 6 o'clock, I gotta run, gotta run. It's exactly like a D sound. So if you want to up your American accent, you can include this pronunciation when you speak. I gotta go, I gotta run. It doesn't mean that you're going to exercise and run. It just means I need to leave, probably quickly. I gotta go, I gotta run. Quick and easy fluent phrase number 4 is no worries, no problem. This is kind of like a 2-for-1 deal, 2 phrases in one. So this is just another informal way to say you're welcome. But we often use this in light situations. So for example, if you've helped someone at work, maybe you proofread an email that they were going to send, or you looked over their project, they might say, thanks so much for helping me get my project done. And you say, no worries, it's my pleasure. No worries, it's my pleasure. Or if it was pouring down rain and you gave someone your umbrella for the afternoon, they could say, thanks so much for letting me borrow your umbrella. You can use this great phrase. No problem, or no worries, no worries. Excellent way to level up your fluency in English. Quick and easy fluent phrase number 5 is for real? For real? So this phrase can be used in a positive or a negative way depending on your tone of voice. So let me give you some examples. Take a look at this sentence. When the sales associate told me that the computer costs $4,000, I said, for real? Can you tell by my face and by my tone of voice? I'm shocked. I'm surprised. And maybe I want to verify, really? Is it really $4,000? That's really expensive. I'm not asking them to actually give me an answer because the price is right there. It's a fact, it's $4,000. But I'm showing my surprise by saying, for real? That's really expensive. For real? So we call this a rhetorical question. It means when you ask a question, but you don't expect a response. It's just kind of a figure of speech. So if somebody says, yeah, that computer's $4,000, you might say, what? For real? But we can use this in a positive way too. So let's imagine that I looked at the computer, it's $4,000, way too expensive. I go to the next store, and at the next store, the sales associate says, yeah, this computer is $400. I might say, for real? That's a great deal! Can you tell in the tone of my voice that it's something positive? I am responding with positive surprise. $4,000? Nope. $400, what a deal. We might even call it a steal. What a steal. So you can use for real in this type of positive surprise as well. If your friend tells you some positive news like, I'm gonna have a baby, you might say, for real? You're not asking them, wait, are you lying to me? No, this is a rhetorical question. You're not asking for a response. You're simply showing surprise or shock, but in that positive way. I know I said that we're going to be studying 5 quick and easy expressions, but I couldn't help myself. I want to give you a bonus expression. So our bonus quick and easy fluent phrase is, what's that? What's that? This is a nice informal way to ask, I didn't understand what you said. Can you repeat that, please? But it's very quick. You can just say, what's that? What's that? Let me give you an example, and then we'll talk about some pronunciation so that you don't mix it up with another phrase that is almost exactly the same. So if I'm talking with one of my students and I just don't understand what the student said, maybe their pronunciation was incorrect, or maybe they were talking too quickly, or maybe there was some noise, I might say, "What's that? What's that?" And it's just a way to ask, "Hey, can you repeat that thing you said because I didn't understand it? There was some noise, or maybe your pronunciation, I'm not sure what happened," but you can just say, "What's that? What's that?" Notice how I'm emphasizing both words. What's that? What's that? What's that? Because if you go into, let's say you go into a bakery, and I'm thinking about chocolate right now, I guess. Let's say you go into a bakery and you see a dessert that you really want, but for some reason, the one that you want doesn't have a label on it. So you might ask the person who works in the bakery, "What's that? What's that?" You're simply asking, what's the name of that thing? This is different than "I don't understand." Do you want to hear that pronunciation difference? What's that? What's that? You're emphasizing that because you're pointing to that dessert. And in this way, you're using it in the very normal way. What's that? What's that thing? But if you want to use this phrase to say, "I didn't hear what you said, please repeat," you need to emphasize both words. Listen when I say it. What's that? What's that? What's that? They both have equal emphasis. What's that? What's that? You can often use this if there's a bad connection. Maybe you're having a phone conversation or a Zoom call or something like this, and the connection starts to cut out a little bit. You might say, "What's that? I didn't hear what you said." "What's that? What did you say? What's that?" It's a great thing to use in those types of situations where you can't understand, but maybe there's just a technical problem.
Great work. Let's go on to the next lesson where you will learn how to be polite when you need someone to repeat something. There are a lot of useful phrases that you can integrate into your conversations. Let's go. Let's get started with 8 casual phrases for when you want someone to repeat themselves, but you don't want to say, "Huh? What?" Let's start. Phrase number 1 is, "Sorry?" Oh, this is so polite, and it is a great one-word alternative instead of saying, "What?" When you say, "Sorry," this is extremely kind, and it just means, "Hey, I didn't understand what you said. Maybe the environment is too noisy. Maybe there's a rooster crowing in the background. Or maybe you just didn't get a word that they said, or the topic was too complicated." Great. What can you say? Sorry? And you'll notice that we say the word sorry in front of a lot of the next expressions too. So let's go to number 2. Sorry, what'd you say? Oh, this is excellent, especially if you weren't paying attention completely. Maybe you were working on something, you were looking at your phone, you were just off in la la land. You can use this great expression. Sorry, what'd you say? Sorry, can you say that again? I often use this phrase when my husband is trying to tell me something, but I'm playing with my 2 kids and we're being loud together, or maybe they're being loud, and I just didn't hear what he said. Maybe I could have said, "Huh? What?" But that's not very polite. Instead, I can say, and I often do, "Sorry, can you say that again?" Excellent. What was that? Oh, what was that is a great question to ask when you just didn't catch what someone was saying. Maybe it's a little bit surprising. Some kind of information, they're talking, and then they say, "Oh yeah, and then I'm getting married next weekend." What was that? Oh, you want them to repeat themselves, but you want to ask them in a nice way. Excellent phrase. The next 3 phrases are used in extremely casual situations, so I don't recommend using these at work. You can use them with friends, with family you feel comfortable with, and they're often used regionally in the US. The first one is, "Come again?" When you ask someone, "Come again?" it's because you maybe didn't hear them, but more likely you heard them correctly, but you were kind of surprised by what they said, so you want them to repeat it. So you can say, "Okay, yeah, you did say that." So let me give you a quick example. If you're talking with your good friend and then your good friend mentions, "Oh yeah, I'm moving to Japan next week." Come again? This is shocking information. You had no idea that your friend was going to move to Japan. So you want her to repeat herself, and you can use this great phrase. Come again? You're not moving to Japan. No, you can't move to Japan. Stay with me. It's a great phrase to use. A similar phrase that's also casual is, how's that? We often use this in the similar situations when we either don't understand or we want someone to repeat themselves for clarity. You might ask, how's that? And to make it even more casual, you can say, do what? This is something that I use often. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's something that's common in the south of the US where I live, but it's when you want someone to repeat themselves, but I use it when someone says something that I'm surprised by. You're moving to Japan? Do what? And it doesn't mean that they're doing something, but it just means that you're surprised by what they said. Along with do what, we have say what. And it just means they said something that you want them to repeat. Maybe you didn't understand, or maybe it was a little surprising, and you might answer with, say what? No, you can't move to Japan. Don't move to Japan. Say what? The last casual phrase is, sorry, one more time. I use this phrase if I'm in a noisy restaurant and I've already asked someone to repeat themselves a couple times, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention and I feel a little bit bad that I'm asking them again to repeat themselves. So if you've already said, sorry, can you say that again? Sorry, I didn't hear you. Sorry, one more time. This is like your final request. Sorry, one more time. Very nice. All right, let's go to some professional expressions that you can use instead of, huh? What? When you want someone to repeat themselves. Sorry, I didn't catch what you said. Sorry, I didn't catch what you said. This verb to catch means that we can imagine a word is running away and you can't catch it. You can't understand it. We often use that word catch when we're talking about conversations and maybe missing a word or missing a phrase. So this is a great question that you can use. Sorry, I didn't catch what you said. Can you repeat that, please? Excellent. Can you run that by me again? Can you run that by me again? We often use this if someone said something long or confusing. Maybe you're talking about a technical concept in your business and it's just long and confusing. There's lots of parts. Well, you could say, can you run that by me again? I want to make sure I understood everything. Can you run that by me again? Could you rephrase that for me? Could you rephrase that for me? The word rephrase means that you're saying the same thing, but with different words. And this is excellent, especially for English learners, but hey, really for everyone, because sometimes the way that someone explains something is confusing. Or maybe they used a word that you just don't know yet, or it's something that you're not familiar with. Great. How can you understand it? You need to have that rephrased for you. So you can use this question. Can you rephrase that for me, please? Excellent. When you say, do you mean... This is a great question to make sure you actually understood exactly what they're talking about. You can use this in general situations, but it's great to use in professional situations if there's some kind of lingo that's specific to your field and maybe you're not completely familiar with it. So if someone uses a word, when you say that technical word, do you mean... and you can explain it a little bit more. You can rephrase it and they'll say, oh yeah, that's what I mean. Or they might say, no, I meant this. And it's a great way to kind of check for clarity. You can even use this in daily life. If your friend says, hey, let's meet up at the park. You could say, when you say park, do you mean Central Park? If you're in New York City, there's a lot of parks. So you need to check for clarity. So you could ask, when you say park, do you mean Central Park? And they might say, oh no, I meant this other park. Great. Well, now you know what they're saying. Could you be more specific, please? Great. This is often used in a professional situation if someone's giving a lot of hypothetical ideas and you need to know how this will apply to the company, how this will apply to your specific situation. So great. You can ask, can you be more specific, please? Another common professional word is, can you elaborate on that? Elaborate. Wonderful word. And this means to give more details. Instead of just saying a couple simple things, I need to know exactly how this will fit into our company or into the situation we're talking about. Can you elaborate on that? Oh, lovely. I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Oh, when you say the full phrase, I'm sorry, it just kind of levels up the politeness. You can say, sorry, can you repeat that? That's no problem. But if you want to kind of level up the politeness, you can say, I'm sorry, can you repeat that? And it means you really care what the other person has to say and you want to know what they're saying, so you're asking them to repeat themselves. Do not feel bad asking this question. It is excellent and important, and it shows the other person, I really care. So, I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please? Let's say someone says something a little confusing, a little long, maybe something that you're not exactly clear about, but you don't want to ask them to repeat themselves. Well, you can check your understanding by saying this phrase. Let me make sure I understand this right. Ooh, so you're going to rephrase what they said with your own understanding. Let me make sure I understand this right. You're going to call the marketing department tomorrow and then get in touch with the client. So you're going to rephrase what they just told you, and you're not asking them to repeat themselves. This is just another alternative instead of making them repeat. Our final professional phrase before we talk about two that you need to be very careful with is just to clarify. This is similar to our previous expression where you're going to be the one rephrasing what they said. You want to check that you understood everything correctly, and maybe there's some parts that you didn't get completely. So you can use this phrase, just to clarify, you're calling the marketing department, not me, right? You want to make sure that the action that you heard is what's actually going to happen. Okay, warning, warning, warning. Be very careful. The next two phrases that I'm going to share with you are commonly used, but they have two distinct differences. One can be used in a polite way and one can be extremely rude. So make sure that you listen carefully to the differences between how you say these expressions. The first one is, I beg your pardon? Ooh. Okay, this is kind of old-fashioned English, but people definitely still use this in daily life if it is with a positive tone. No negativity in your face, no negativity in your voice. Someone says something quickly and you just didn't catch it, and you say, I beg your pardon? Okay, in a professional situation like that, very neutrally, it's okay, but sometimes this phrase can be extremely rude. If someone says, oh yeah, I ate the last piece of cake, you could say, I beg your pardon? Oh, do you see my face? Watch again. I beg your pardon? You're not trying to be polite, really. You're trying to express shock. What? What did you say? You ate the last piece of cake, but I want the last piece of cake. Could you have at least shared it with me? I beg your pardon? Oh, so you want them to repeat themselves, but you're kind of angry about the situation. So make sure if you use this expression, use it with the right tone, a neutral tone, or this angry tone if you want to convey that. And if someone says it to you, now hopefully you can pick up which tone they're using so that you can understand their real meaning. The final phrase, one that you need to be very careful using, is a simple one. Excuse me? Okay, so same as our previous expression, there's two distinct tones that you can use when you use this phrase. The first is very neutral. If someone says something that you just didn't catch, it was too fast, maybe it's a noisy environment, you can say, excuse me? Excuse me? Okay, this is a little more neutral and you're just asking them to repeat themselves, but it is very easy to say this in the wrong way because we often use this when we're a little bit angry, shocked, and you want someone to repeat what they said, but only because you feel lots of negative emotion building. So you might say, excuse me? Excuse me? When someone tells you, I ate the last piece of cake, sorry, you can say, excuse me? You ate the last piece of cake? That was my birthday cake. Excuse me? So do you see how there is a tone of anger, of frustration, and annoyance in my voice when I say it? So in my opinion, I think it's better to use one of the other phrases that we just talked about if you want someone to simply repeat themselves. But I want to make sure that you are empowered with the knowledge that someone might be using this towards you or other people around you with that tone of annoyance. And it sounds polite, excuse me, but
it is not polite, and it's showing lots of anger.
Great work. Let's go on to the next lesson where you will learn 100, that's right, 100 phrases for daily life. I will go through my day and explain different things that happen and some key vocabulary that you'll need to describe your daily life. Let's go.
All right, are you ready to get started with the first category? What's the first thing you do in the day? Well, you wake up. Let's go see. 10 sentences for waking up in the morning. Ugh, I hate it when my alarm clock goes off. I always push snooze. What about you? Oh no, I accidentally turned my alarm clock off and I overslept. I really like to sleep in on the weekends. Notice the difference between to sleep in and to oversleep. To sleep in can be an enjoyable thing, but to oversleep is always bad. You're probably going to be late to work. I jumped out of bed because I overslept. It's time to wake up, rise and shine. But maybe you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and when you hear someone say, rise and shine, nothing could be worse. When I finally get out of bed in the morning, I try to make the bed. Make the bed. It makes me feel nice and fresh in the morning when I wash my face and brush my teeth. Then I pick out what I'm going to wear for the day and get dressed. 10 common sentences for breakfast. I usually try to find time to whip up some breakfast before I get started on my day. My husband turns on the coffee pot to brew some coffee. For me, I boil some water in the tea kettle for my morning tea. When I have fresh lemons, sometimes I like to make some fresh lemon juice in the morning. If I have some bread, like I don't today, I'm sorry, I throw some toast in the toaster. When I have a little more time, I scramble some eggs for breakfast. Straight from my chickens. Then I realize that I'm gonna be late for work, so I scarf down my breakfast. Did you notice this fast verb? To scarf down your breakfast means that you eat really quickly. There were some other fast expressions in this section. To throw some bread in the toaster, to whip up your breakfast. It implies that a lot of us don't leave enough time in the morning, so we have to do things quickly. I clear the table and put the dirty dishes in the sink. A lot of times I fill up my to-go mug and take it to the office. This can also be called a tumbler, especially because it's insulated and can keep my tea hot all day. The final expression for breakfast is what happens if you wake up so late and you have no time to drink anything, to eat anything. What do you say? Well, you could say this. I overslept, so I think I will get something on the way. You could say on the way to the office, but you don't need to. You can say, I'm gonna get something on the way, or I'm gonna pick up something on the way, and it means you're gonna stop by a little restaurant or a cafe or a coffee shop and get something to eat and drink on your way to work. 10 expressions for going to work or school. It's time for me to head to work. This verb, to head somewhere, is great when you're going in a direction. I'm headed to the store. I'm gonna head to work. What are you doing? Well, I'm heading to school right now. Before I drive, I always buckle my seatbelt. Buckle my seatbelt. Then I back out of the driveway. I back out of the driveway. Once I'm on the highway, I speed up to drive faster. When I'm stuck in traffic, I need to slow down or sometimes completely stop. When I need to turn, it's important to use your blinker. To use your blinker. I try to avoid traffic on my commute, so usually I leave a couple minutes early. I have to merge onto the highway. I don't really like doing that, but it's necessary. While I'm driving, I try to watch out for school buses and pedestrians. I don't want to hit anyone. The best thing about my commute is that I get to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I drive to work and I listen to Vanessa's videos on the way. 10 sentences for working with other people in the office. Excuse me, when you have a moment, can I ask you a question? This is an extremely polite and wonderful question to ask in the office. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble understanding the assignment. Can you explain it a little bit more? I'm filling in for our manager today because he's sick. Do you know who is going to be the lead on this project? As you can imagine, this word, the lead, is short for the leader. But in the office, you will often hear just the lead. I'm the lead on that project. Great. When you work with customers, it's great to say, "Hi, how can I help you?" "Hi, how can I help you?" Or you can say, "Thanks for your patience. I'll be right with you." This is a great phrase to use on the phone as well if you're talking with a client or with a customer or with anyone really and you can't talk with them right away. You might say, "Hi, thanks for your patience. I'll be right with you." Perfect. The last 4 sentences use extremely common and useful idioms for the workplace. I think I'm gonna have to bite the bullet and tell my boss about the mistake that I made on that report. Well, that plan didn't go like I expected. I guess it's back to the drawing board. You don't need to be an architect or an artist to use this expression. It's just an idiom. So if you need to completely scrap your plans and start over, you can say, I guess it's back to the drawing board. When you work on a group project, it is incredibly important to pool your own weight. Can you imagine what this means? It means that you don't just sit there and wait for other people to do the work. Instead, you are contributing an equal amount. You're pulling your own weight and being an equal member of the group. The final office expression I use all the time, you might say, all right, let's touch base next week after the project has already gotten started. To touch base is kind of a baseball expression, and it means let's check in, let's talk to each other and kind of see where we're at. Let's touch base next week. You don't need to message me every day, but I want to check in and see how things are going. Let's touch base. 10 expressions for taking a break. Whether you work full-time, you are a full-time mother or father, whether you are a full-time student or you're retired, everyone needs to take a break. When I was painting inside my house, I needed to step outside and get some fresh air. It's so nice out here. A lot of people at my office take a smoke break, but I don't smoke, so I take a sunshine break. Are you hungry? I think it's time for a snack break. Hey, I'm going on a coffee run. Do you want anything? This is a great expression to use at the office or at school when you are going to a coffee shop and you're going to be buying coffee or tea and you want to offer to get something for someone else. I'm going on a coffee run. I'm going on a tea run. Would you like anything? The grocery store, the bank, the post office. I need to run some errands this afternoon. I need to run some errands this afternoon. It doesn't mean that you're actually running, but maybe you're going a little bit quickly because it's not too fun. These last 5 expressions are for when you really need a break. What can you say? I'm falling asleep at my desk. I think I need to take a lap around the office to wake myself up. It's so hot. We've been working outside in the sun. I think we should take a breather and go sit in the shade. Now that my assignment is finished, I'm gonna take a minute before I work on anything else. Congratulations to me. This hike is harder than I thought. I need to catch my breath before we go up the next hill. To catch my breath. It's a great expression for when you need to take a break. And our final taking a break expression is, it's the end of the day. Let's hit pause before we start any new projects. It's time to go home. 10 expressions for saying goodbye at work or at school. In the office, all right, I'm shutting down for the day. At school, Time to pack up. Let's go home. At work or at school, you can say, let's call it a day. Time to go home. All right, that's it. I think we've done all that we can do today. I'm headed out. I'll see you tomorrow. I gotta run. I'll catch up with you tomorrow. I'm out of here. I've got an appointment I've got to get to. That's a wrap. Nice work, everyone. We finished. Bye. See you tomorrow. Bye, everyone. Have a good evening. 10 expressions for going out to a restaurant with your family or friends. I don't feel like cooking tonight. Let's eat out. This is the most common phrasal verb for talking about going to a restaurant. Let's eat out. I love eating out, and it means going to a restaurant. Maybe you don't want to sit inside. You could say, oh, it's such a beautiful day outside. Can we get a table on the patio? Can we get a table on the patio? I usually order the grilled chicken, but do you have any specials today? I haven't eaten here before. What do you recommend? All right, I think I'd like the Caesar salad, please. I'm not very hungry. Do you want to split a pizza with me? Can I get a refill on my drink when you have a chance? Thanks. How's your food? It looks delicious. I think I'll order that next time. Can you bring me a to-go box? I think I'd like to save this for later. Thanks. In the US, it's really common to get a to-go box because, yes, just like the stereotype, our food portions are huge. And it's no problem to take home your leftovers in a to-go box. Sometimes we call this a doggy bag. It doesn't look like a dog. It's not really for your dog, but you could call it either a to-go box or a doggy bag. I know we just had a big dinner, but let's splurge and get dessert too. What do you think?
10 common expressions about playing with your kids. It seems like little and big boys always want to roughhouse and play hard. It seems like my kids always want to eat a snack. What about yours? Wow, look at that tall Lego tower you made. It's a beautiful day to go on a bike ride down the street. Sometimes doing a puzzle is a great way to calm down and relax. It's so satisfying to hit a baseball, even if you're just playing by yourself. Nothing is more fun than going down a slide into a huge pile of leaves. My kids love to do chalk in a shady part of the walkway. I do too. The first thing my son does in the morning is pick raspberries in our backyard. Sometimes my son gets so tired that he takes a nap in the middle of the floor. Aw, how cute.
10 sentences for relaxing at the end of the day. What a day. I'm so glad to finally be home. But before I can relax, I really need to finish up some chores. I just spent a few minutes tidying up the house, so now I can relax on the couch. After a long day, some people just like to zone out and watch TV. Or you can use the fun expression, at the end of a long day, I like to veg out and watch TV. This comes from the word vegetable because, let's be honest, when you watch TV, your brain is kind of like a vegetable. It's not doing very much, but it's kind of nice sometimes to just veg out and watch TV. Before I go to bed, I like to catch up on the book that I'm reading. So interesting. At the end of a long day, I like to just chill. Maybe that's watching some TV, maybe that's reading my book. I don't want to do much, I just want to chill. What can you say to someone else who's had a really long day? Well, if they've come over to your house as a guest, when you open the door and greet them, you could say, "Make yourself at home." This means that they will feel comfortable in your house. Make yourself at home, open the cupboard, get yourself a glass of water if you want, feel free to sit down. Don't worry about any kind of formal rules. Make yourself at home. Or you might say to your loved one, I can see you've had a really long day. Why don't you put your feet up and I'll get you a glass of water? put your feet up, maybe sit on the couch, put your feet up, and I'll get you a glass of water. Don't worry, I got it. If you've had a busy month, a busy year, you might say, I'm so thankful for our vacation coming up. I really need some R&R. This is not railroad. This means rest, relaxation. Some people say it means to recuperate. This means that you are chilling out and you're gaining your strength back. We often see this in writing. I'm going to get some R&R this weekend in the mountains. I'll be back later. But you can also use this in conversation. 10 expressions for your nighttime routine. It's finally the end of the day. Well, before I go to bed, I always double check that I have locked my door. After that, I go through the house and turn off the lights. I already read bedtime stories to my 2 sons. They're asleep, so I need to tiptoe quietly to my bedroom so they don't wake up. Let's go. Before I go to bed, I need to take a shower to get clean for bed. Then I need to brush my teeth. Usually when you brush your teeth and then you spit and rinse your mouth. Finally, it's time to get cozy for the day, put on my pajamas, and put my clothes in the laundry basket. Before I go to bed every night, I double check my alarm. I want to make sure that I don't oversleep. Finally, it's time to hit the hay. I can curl up under the covers and drift off to sleep. Good night.
Great work with those 100 daily life vocabulary phrases. How are you liking this English masterclass? Let me know in the comments if this is something that you enjoy. Our next lesson is going to help you speak real English instead of classroom English. You will learn some common English vocabulary phrases that my students use, which are really classroom English, but how to switch them to be real English that English speakers use in daily life. Let's go. To swing by. Maybe you could just swing by the park later and pick me up. I used this because I was walking to the park with my children, and on the way back there's a huge uphill. And I didn't want to walk uphill with them back to the house. So I asked my husband this question. Maybe you could just swing by the park and pick us up. This means just a quick visit. He doesn't need to get out and stay at the park and play. He's just swinging by the park, we're getting in the car, and then we're driving home. He did this and it was very helpful. There are 2 other very similar phrasal verbs that you could substitute for this. To drop by or to stop by. Maybe you could just stop by the park and pick us up. Maybe you could just drop by the park and pick us up. Beautiful. Let's take a look at one more sentence. I need to swing by the grocery store to pick up some things for dinner. It doesn't mean I'm going to do a huge grocery shop. Instead, I'm just getting a couple things because it's a short visit. I'm just going to swing by the grocery store. Beautiful. Let's go to number 2. We'll see. My son asked me, are we going to the store later? And I said, well, I need to finish up this work and then we'll see. Notice the pronunciation. I didn't say we'll see with a clear we'll see. Instead, I used this reduced pronunciation and said wool. It almost sounds like a short U. We'll see. We'll see. Sometimes this can be used as an indirect way to say no, but it could just be that you don't want to give a direct answer now, and you'll see if in the future there's a possibility to do that thing. So for example, children sometimes ask something like this. Can we get ice cream this afternoon? Well, if you don't want to say no, but you're not sure if the answer is directly yes, you can say, we'll see, we'll see. Maybe this gives children too much hope if your real answer is no, but if you're not sure, you could just say, we'll see. I don't know yet. We'll see. Real expression number 3 is, I'll get back to you. This is great to use in daily life or in your professional life. My friend texted me and said, hey, can I come over for dinner tonight? And I said, well, I'm not home right now, but I'll get back to you later this afternoon. That means I don't know my schedule. I need to take a look at my calendar, and then when I get back home, I will get back to you. This is not literally my body is going back. This just means I'll return your message. I'll give you an answer later, similar to we'll see. But it's letting her know, hey, I'll get back to you when I get back home this afternoon. We often just use the phrase, I'll get back to you later. Well, maybe you don't know if the answer is yes now or no now. You need to ask someone or you need to check your schedule. You could just say, I'll get back to you. Beautiful. To go for something, we often use this in the phrase, let's go for it, or I'm so glad we went for it. So last week, our neighbors across the street were selling a big chunk of their land. It's right across the street from our house, and my husband and I had already been thinking about investing in some land as kind of a long-term financial investment. When that land became available, well, we knew we needed to act fast. And I said, I have a good feeling about this. Let's go for it. He was a little more hesitant, but in the end, I persuaded him. And he said, you know what? I'm glad we went for it. He was glad that we decided to take quick action, and it worked out. We got the land, and now it's a nice investment. Real English expression number 5 that I used last week is to take a breather. It was kind of a hectic, busy, a little stressful week, so we needed to do something to relax our minds. So I said, I'm so glad that we went to the river. We really needed a breather. We decided to spend some time beside the river, just relaxing, watching the water, throwing some rocks. This is a breather. There's a little space in your life when you can relax. I needed a breather, and I'm glad we did it. You can also use this in a more immediate sense. Let's imagine that you're going on a really difficult hike. You could say, this hike is harder than I thought. Hang on a moment, I need a breather. This means you need a break. You're gonna sit down, try to catch your breath, and you just need a little bit of time to rest. I need a breather. Sometimes that feels good, doesn't it? Real English expression that I used last week, I'll do it in a sec. What's a sec? Well, this is a shortened version of the word second. I'll do it in a second. We were in the car and my kids said, hey mom, can we listen to some music? And I said, I'll do it in a sec. I have to wait till we get to a stop sign. I can't mess with the music while I'm driving. So I said, I'll do it in a sec when we get to a stop sign. Very casual, great expression. Let's see another sentence. If there's a big pile of laundry in your living room and your husband comes home and sees it, you might say, hey, don't worry about the laundry. I'll do it in a sec when I'm done with my work. I'll do it in a sec. It won't take long. I just need to get it done after this work. Real English expression number 7, just the 3 of us. I took my kids to a local nature center, and usually we invite friends when we go to these types of things. And I tried to invite their friends, but everyone was busy. So when my son asked me, are any friends coming? I said, no, it's just the 3 of us. Me and my 2 sons. It's just the 3 of us. You might imagine that you can switch out that word 3 for any other number and you'd be correct. It's just the 2 of us. We're going on a date and for once it's just the 2 of us. Or maybe there are 6 people in your family. It's just the 6 of us. This denotes a limited group of people. Let's take a look at another sentence. Why are we sitting at this huge table? It's just the 4 of us. We don't need this much space. Sometimes I think this when I watch period dramas. This is a TV show that's based in a time long ago, and they have this huge long table, and there's just 2 people sitting at the table. It's just the 2 of them. They don't need that huge table. Always strikes me as kind of weird. All right, let's go to the next expression. Real expression number 8. Off they went. I took my son to a playground to play with some of his friends from his school last year who he hadn't seen for a while. And even though he hadn't seen those friends for a while, the moment we got to the park, off they went. Do you get the sense for what's happening here? Yes, they left suddenly, but it's also an idea when we're talking about people that they got along easily. But we can change this slightly to talk about just going off suddenly. Take a look at this sentence. The two dogs saw the squirrel and off they went and chased it up a tree. Suddenly, the dogs went away and chased that squirrel. Off they went. What a great expression. Real expression number 9 is show me how it's done. So sometimes in the mornings I like to do a yoga video as just a way to warm up my muscles, but one morning my kids did not want me to watch the yoga video. Instead, they wanted to show me how it's done. They said, we're gonna be your yoga instructors and we're gonna show you what you need to do. It was hilarious. We had a great time. They showed me some crazy poses and we did it together. In fact, it was pretty good exercise and they showed me how it's done. You can use this expression in kind of a snarky way. So let's imagine you're a pretty good dancer and then your friend says, oh, I'm gonna show you a better way to do that dance. You could say, oh, you think you know a better way? Okay, then show me how it's done. This means I don't expect your dance moves to be better than mine. So you know what? I'm gonna use this phrase, show me how it's done. Let's just see if your dance moves are better than mine. Now, I don't really imagine you'll have this kind of snark with your friends, but you will absolutely see this in movies and TV shows where someone thinks that they're better at something and they say, okay, show me how it's done. And oftentimes that person is pretty good at it. All right, let's go to the next expression. Real expression number 10, a new phase in life. You could use this for almost any phase in life. For me, when my son Theo started kindergarten, it was just a new phase in life. It wasn't better, it wasn't worse, it was just a new phase that I needed to get adjusted to. In fact, everyone in our family needed to get adjusted to that new phase in life. If you decide to move to the US, well, there will be some great times and some not so great times, but just think of it as a new phase in life. You'll get used to it at some point. Real English expression number 11 is to your heart's content. This is a little odd grammatically, so take a look at how I used it. We went to an apple orchard, which is a common fall time activity here where I live in the south of the US, and I said, you can pick apples to your heart's content. I want you to just substitute the phrase as much as you want. You can pick apples as much as you want. And then we could take that out and add to your heart's content. You can pick apples to your heart's content. This means as much as you want. For me, in the summertime, I just want to eat watermelon to my heart's content. To me, watermelon is one of the best parts of summer. I want to eat watermelon to my heart's content. Real expression number 12 is, you never know. Notice the inflection in my voice. It's kind of mysterious. You never know. So I bought this little ceramic squirrel bowl for our fall dining room table because I thought it was cute and my son is obsessed with squirrels. And in the morning, there were a few little things in that bowl. My son said, did that squirrel pick those for me? Well, he knows that squirrel's not real. I know that squirrel's not real, but he wanted to use his imagination. So I used this phrase. You never know. I wanted to play along. I thought it would be a fun little game, and we both know it's not possible, but it's okay to use your imagination. So I said, well, you never know. Let's take a look at another situation. This one is a little more serious, but it's a great way to use this phrase. You can say, well, you should always be kind to strangers because you never know what they're going through. It's true. You don't know what's happening in someone's life, so you should be kind to them. You never know what's actually happening in their lives, so be kind. Real English expression number 13 is take it easy. Well, we had a busy week, so I said, let's just take it easy this weekend. Let's not make too many big plans. Let's just take it easy. Sometimes that feels really good, doesn't it? Or maybe you're forced to take it easy. You might say, I hurt my foot, so the doctor told me to take it easy for a couple weeks. This is a phrase the doctor might even directly tell you. You need to take it easy over the next couple weeks, no big hikes, just 10-minute walks on level ground. Nothing too crazy, take it easy. a great phrase. Real English expression number 14 is, I thought it was a good idea. Notice the emphasis on the word thought. I thought it was a good idea. This implies something different. Take a look at how I used it. There was a local concert about 20 minutes away from my house, so I decided to walk. I thought it was a good idea to walk to the concert, but on the way home, it was so dark, I scared myself. So here I had an idea. Oh, it's great. I'll get some exercise. I'll walk to the concert. But on the way home, that idea I realized was maybe not the best idea. So we could say, I thought it was a good idea, emphasizing the word thought to show it really wasn't a good idea. I thought it was a good idea, but I scared myself. Let's take a look at another sentence. I thought it was a good idea to buy Christmas presents early, but then I forgot about what I bought for who, and I ended up buying too many presents. This happens to grandparents around the world, I think. They get excited about Christmas presents and buy too many. I thought it was a good idea to get started early, but maybe it wasn't. Our final and 15th real English expression that I used last week is to save the rest for later. I'm really lucky to have many kind neighbors who often drop by my house, swing by my house, we could say, and bring us food. Well, one day last week, my neighbor brought by a beautiful dessert. But it was right before my children were about to go to bed. They rushed out and they saw the dessert and they said, we want it, can we have it now? Well, I didn't want them to have that big dessert right before bed, so I said, let's have a little piece now and we'll save the rest for later. The rest means whatever is left over. So we had a little bit and then the next day we had some more. We'll save the rest for later. Let's take a look at another sentence. I got $100 for my birthday. Wow! So I bought myself a shirt and I decided to save the rest for later. That means the leftover money I set aside. Maybe I put it in the bank, maybe I kept it in the envelope, or I put it in my wallet. I decided to save the rest for later. Maybe someday I'll find something else that's special and I'd like to buy it. Great work learning some real English phrases, not classroom English phrases. The next English lesson is also going to help you level up your vocabulary skills by helping you use advanced words in English, but these are also commonly used in daily life. So these are not too professional, not too business, but these are advanced words for daily life. Let's go.
All right, are you ready to get started learning these wonderful English phrases, including one that apparently I've been using wrong my whole life, and I just found it out as I was making this lesson. All right, let's get started. The conversation was confusing. The conversation was all over the map. Oh, much better. This idiom, all over the map, means that there is no logic, no flow. It jumps from one idea to the other. It is all over the map. It's pretty confusing and difficult to understand. Man, that conversation was all over the map. I'm learning about these English idioms. I'm trying to get the hang of it. Oh, much better. This idiom, to get the hang of it, means that you're learning something new and you're trying to become more comfortable with it. When you're going from beginner to intermediate to advanced, well, you are trying to get the hang of English so that you can speak comfortably. Excellent. Get the hang of it. Summer is almost over. Before you know it, it will be fall. Ooh. Before you know it. This is an excellent English idiom, and it means something will happen soon or almost immediately. Before you know it. Oh, it's going to happen so soon that I won't even have time to think about it. You know what? Before you know it, you are going to be speaking English confidently. One day, you'll just keep practicing and practicing, and then, oh, I didn't even realize it, but my confidence has been growing. Before you know it, you will be speaking English confidently. Wow, they really like each other.
Wow, they are head over heels for each other. This is a fun English idiom that means you are completely in love with someone. To be head over heels. We can imagine when you fall in love, your head and your heels are kind of switching positions. So they are head over heels for each other, completely in love. What a wonderful phrase. Let me know if your plans change. Keep me posted. Keep me in the loop. Oh, those are great phrases. Keep me posted. We can imagine a poster with some announcement on it. Or keep me in the loop. Here we have a circle and there is some important information inside that circle. That's kind of the literal meaning of this figurative idiom. Can you imagine it means to get some updates about something, to make sure that I have the most recent information. We often use this for events, maybe for someone's health condition. If your friend just had a baby and you say, hey, I'm gonna bring you some food so that you have dinner tonight, but keep me posted and let me know if you need anything else. Okay, keep me posted. They're not gonna send you a poster, but it means they'll just text you with some updates. Hey, could you come over and hold my baby while I take a shower? Oh, this is great. This is an update about what's going on. Or we could just exchange it with the other phrase. Hey, can you keep me in the loop? Just keep me in the loop. Let me know if you need anything and make sure I have some updates. Excellent. The students didn't get in trouble. The teacher let them off the hook. Ooh, this fun English idiom, let someone off the hook. We can imagine a fish. You caught a fish and it doesn't seem like good news for that fish, right? He's about to be eaten. But if you let him off the hook, if you take him off the hook and throw him back into the water, he's free. And this is the same idea here. The students did something not so great, and the teacher did not punish them. Instead, the teacher let them off the hook. Oh, what a wonderful English idiom. That means you don't get in trouble. The consequences are less than you thought. Oh, I didn't think they would let me off the hook, but I'm free. Excellent. How are you doing? I'm having a pretty good day today. How are you doing today? So far, so good. Oh, that's a great expression. When someone asks you, how are you doing? You can say, so far, so good. This is a great way to respond to this common question. And in fact, it's a little bit funny too, because it kind of implies that everything is going well so far, but at any time something bad could happen. So it's not a perfectly optimistic phrase. It's kind of a realistic phrase with a little bit of humor. How are you doing? So far, so good. Great. At any time, something terrible could happen, but right now, everything is great. So far, so good. Excellent. I hope you can use this in your daily conversations. Oh, hey, I was just talking about you. Speak of the devil. Oh, much better. This phrase, speak of the devil, is used when you're talking about someone and then they walk in the room. Oh, speak of the devil. Are you calling your friend the devil? No, you are not implying that they are bad or evil. This is just an idiom that shows we were talking about you and then there you are. It's kind of like magic. All of a sudden, he appears. So I would recommend using this in casual situations with friends, and usually if you say this, they will wonder, what were they saying about me? So if you are saying something secretive about that person, maybe don't use this phrase. You don't want them to know that you were talking about them. But if you say, speak of the devil, there he is. Well, you might need to explain, we were talking about your birthday party last week and how much fun it was. You're going to need to explain a little bit what you were talking about. But you know what? Sometimes this phrase is said speaking of the devil. And this phrase,
I found out, is technically wrong. But that's what I say. I say, speaking of the devil, and actually that's what my son says too, because that's what I say. So one time I heard my 4-year-old son say, speaking of the devil, and I thought, what? How did he learn that phrase? And then I realized, oh, that's what I say. So when I say this phrase, I add ing, speaking of the devil. But as I was doing a little bit of research about this, I realized, I'm wrong. So instead, it should be speak of the devil, but you will hear people say speaking of the devil. Technically, it's incorrect, but you will hear people say that, like me. And you know what? It's okay. We get the same meaning, and you know what? Let's just roll with it. Speak of the devil. Speaking of the devil, there he is. That's true. I agree. You could say that again. Oh, what a great phrase. You could say that again. This is a rhetorical statement. You're not actually asking someone to repeat themselves. Instead, you are emphasizing that you absolutely agree with them. Maybe if someone says, oh, it is so hot today, you could say that again. Or if someone says, oh, this cake is amazing, what can you say? You could say that again. That means I absolutely agree with you. It's so hot today. This cake is amazing. You could say that again. And they don't need to repeat it, but it just means I definitely agree with you. This lesson is so helpful. You could say that again. I hope so. I can't believe it. I can't understand it. I can't wrap my head around it. I can't wrap my brain around it. Oh, what a lovely expression. The idea of wrapping your head or your brain around something just means to understand something, but we often use this English idiom for tragic events or something that is really difficult to comprehend. So, for example, recently there were some bad floods in Europe and in China, and for these tragic events, especially when you're watching it on the news, sometimes it's hard to comprehend. I'm not there, I'm not experiencing that in person, so we could use this type of phrase. It's really hard to wrap your brain around the kind of tragedy and the kind of damage that's happening because of the floods. It's hard to wrap your head around something because you seem removed from it. It's kind of, it's too tragic to handle. So we can use this expression, I just can't wrap my brain around it. But we can also use it for simple things too, like if you are looking at a math problem and it's extremely complicated, you can say, I just can't wrap my brain around this problem. I don't think I'm ever going to solve it. So we can use it for these big events or for simple problems too. On the other hand, it's not hard to figure out. It's not rocket science. Oh, much better. We're not actually talking about becoming a rocket scientist. Instead, we're talking about something that's not complicated. And we almost always use this idiom with the word not. It's not rocket science. Let me give you a couple examples because sometimes this can be used to encourage and sometimes this can be used to make fun of someone. So I want to make sure that you use it and you understand how it's being used in that correct way. Last week when the gate on my deck broke, my mom was with me and I said, we can fix it. It isn't rocket science, right? Yeah, let's figure out how to fix this. So here I'm just trying to encourage myself and encourage my mom that this project is not too complicated. It isn't rocket science, right? We can do this. It seems like it might be challenging, but no, it's not rocket science. We got this. We can do it. So that's kind of an encouraging way to use this, but we can also use this to kind of make fun of someone too. Let's imagine that my mom was trying to fix the gate and she said, I just can't figure out how to fix the gate. What if I said to her, it isn't rocket science, you can do it? Can you tell by the tone in my voice, I'm kind of making fun of the fact that she can't figure out that simple thing. It isn't rocket science. You can do it. So here, be careful using this in those types of situations where you're not participating. If you're just telling someone, you can do it, it's not rocket science, you're kind of saying, hey, why can't you figure that out? Are you dumb? Because it's not rocket science, it's a really simple thing. But if you're participating in the activity and you're kind of encouraging yourself to, all right, we can do this. It's not rocket science. We got this. That's no problem, but make sure that you don't just tell this to someone with that kind of sneer. It's not rocket science. You can do it. Make sure that you don't say it like that unless you really want to express yourself in that way. All right, let's go to our next phrase. I'm finished with work. Let's call it a day. Excellent. Let's call it a day, or I'm gonna call it a day, just means I'm finished with work and I'm gonna go home, or I'm going to finish. This is an extremely common phrase in the office or in a work culture. We often say, let's call it a day. Let's call it a day. It's been so long. I'm gonna call it a day. I'm done with this project for now. Excellent. To call it a day means I'm all done. I'm finished and I'll start working again another time. Excellent. Let's call it a day. That is so irritating. That is so annoying. That ruffles my feathers. Oh, what a lovely expression. We can imagine a bird. When a bird is angry, its feathers kind of puff up a little bit. That's kind of ruffling its feathers. It's getting irritated and annoyed about something. Well, we can imagine you are like that bird. You're irritated and annoyed. One time I went to a fireworks show and we were waiting for the fireworks to start, kind of waiting for the sun to set a little bit. And there was a mother with a couple children, and the mother kept telling her kids, sit still, stop fidgeting, be quiet. And then she just looked at her phone. She is doing something to pass the time until the fireworks start, but she's not letting her kids do something to pass the time, like moving around and fidgeting. This type of unfairness, especially to children, really ruffles my feathers. Having more equal standards or understanding the situation of children is a nice thing to do. So when there is unfairness towards children, that really ruffles my feathers. That makes me feel irritated and annoyed.
Great work learning those advanced vocabulary words. The next lesson is going to teach you some fun phrasal verbs that we use every day. Some of these seem a little bit strange, so I don't want you to be too surprised because they are absolutely commonly used all the time. Let's go.
To squirrel away. I'm not going to tell you immediately what this means. Instead, I'm going to tell you a sample sentence and I'd like you to guess what you think it means. Well, I bought some Christmas presents in October and I squirreled them away until December. Do you know what a squirrel is? It's this animal, and a squirrel is known for hiding its food until the winter. So during the warm months, during the summer, it finds acorns and walnuts and any kind of nut, and it buries it in the ground. It hides it for the winter time. So we can take this same concept and imagine what this phrasal verb means. You are hiding something until you need to use it. You could say, he squirrels away his money in a hole in the ground. This is kind of more literally like a squirrel, right? But it's that same concept that you are hiding it until you need it. Weird phrasal verb number 2 is to scarf down. A scarf is usually something that you wear on your neck to keep you warm in the winter. But what if I said this to you? I was so hungry that I just scarfed down my food. Are you eating a scarf? Are you cooking a scarf? No. Instead, this means that you're eating something quickly. You are scarfing it down. This is similar to another phrasal verb, to gobble up your food. So you could say, I woke up so late that I had to scarf down my breakfast while I brushed my hair. Or, I woke up so late that I had to gobble up my breakfast while I was brushing my hair. This idea of eating quickly because you're so hungry or out of necessity. Our next weird phrasal verb is to beef up. Beef is a type of meat from a cow. What if I said this? I wanted to beef up my waffles, so I added some dark chocolate and berries. Beef on waffles sounds awful. But the good news is that this phrasal verb has nothing to do with meat. Instead, it means that you're increasing or you're improving something. I wanted to improve my waffles, so I added some dark chocolate and berries and mixed it up, and then I made my waffles. This is definitely improving my waffles. Or we could say the security was beefed up during the presidential speech. So whenever there is a important public figure who is giving a speech and there's common people around, well, there's probably more security than normal. So we could say the security was beefed up during the presidential speech. So it was increased during the presidential speech. Our next weird phrasal verb is to butt in. Do you know what a butt is? It's your backside. We can kind of imagine here, butt in. Look at this sentence. The annoying guy at the party kept butting in and talking about himself. So annoying. He kept butting in. Is he pushing people with his butt? I hope not. This is the literal sense, but figuratively, we can imagine that he is interrupting with his words. Sometimes this is okay or necessary, but if you do it too much, it can be really annoying. We can use this as an informal way to apologize or kind of interrupt someone in a more polite way. If you say, sorry for butting in, but can you tell me where the bathroom is? So if you're, at someone's house and some people are talking and you're not part of that conversation, well, if you need to ask them a question, you're going to need to interrupt them. So how can you interrupt them in a polite but kind of casual way? You could say this phrase. You could say, sorry to butt in, but where's your restroom? Where's your bathroom? Sorry to butt in. Sorry to interrupt, and that's very polite. Just don't butt in too much, or you'll be like that first annoying guy who butted in too much. The next weird phrasal verb is to chicken out. Are you taking a chicken and throwing it out of the house? No. Instead, look at this sentence. I wanted to go skydiving, but I chickened out at the last second. This means that I was at the skydiving place. I was all hooked up, and then I saw the airplane, and I looked up in the sky and said, no way, I can't do it. I chickened out. That means that I was too scared to do something. Usually this phrase is kind of used in a negative way when we're talking about someone else. So if you said this sentence, maybe your sister would feel a little bit embarrassed. My sister said that she would sing at karaoke, but when it came to be her turn, she chickened out. This kind of implies that you think her fear is irrational. It's kind of like a stupid fear. Why did you chicken out? I wouldn't chicken out if I sang karaoke. Why did you? So if you say this about someone else, make sure that you say it lightly with a light heart. But of course you could say it about yourself. Yeah, I chickened out before I went skydiving, and it's much softer because you're just talking about yourself. Our next weird phrasal verb is to clam up. Do you know what a clam is? It's this thing. It's got two sides of a shell and what happens if it clams up? Take a look at this sentence. The robber clammed up when the detective asked him where he hid the money. So someone, the robber, has stolen money and the detective is trying to figure out where it is. Well, do you think that the robber is telling him where he hid the money, or is he clamming up? He is keeping the information inside him. He is hiding that information. So we're using the phrasal verb clam up to mean that your mouth is closed. You are not telling some information. Or in a more lighthearted way, we could say, my sister clammed up when I asked her where my favorite dress was. Maybe I suspect that she took my favorite dress and either it got ripped, something happened to it, it got a big stain and she's embarrassed to tell me about it, or she's scared to tell me about it. So when I asked her, hey, what happened to my favorite dress? It's not in my closet. Maybe my sister closes her mouth and says nothing. She clams up. The next weird phrasal verb is to flip out. You might say, my mom is going to flip out when she realizes what happened to her dishes. Maybe we threw a ball in the house and all of her dishes crashed and broke. Oh no. Do you think my mom is going to say, oh, that's okay, we'll just buy some new dishes? No. She's going to flip out. That means that she is going to get very angry. Now we can use this in a positive sense to say really excited, and it all depends on the context. Let's take a look at another sentence. I flipped out when I realized that my team won the championship. Am I really angry that my team won? No, of course, I'm really excited. So here we're kind of talking about that loss of control of your emotions. You're not in control of your emotions anymore. You're either really angry, oh, you broke my dishes. My mom is going to freak out or flip out. We use both of these kind of interchangeably. Or I'm losing control of my emotions in a positive way. I flipped out when my team won. Oh, we can, like I said, exchange the phrasal verb freak out. This is a little bit stronger. I freaked out. And it's maybe a little bit more crass. This means a little bit more rude than flip out. I would say that first, flip out is more normal in daily conversation and freak out is a little bit more rude. Not really rude, but just a little bit more. But they both have a similar meaning. You're losing control of your emotions. Our next weird phrasal verb is to gross out. Make sure that you pronounce this word correctly. Gross, gross. You could say, I was grossed out when my cat threw up on my shoe. Ugh. This is disgusting. It's not a good situation. I was grossed out. I went, oh, that's not good. I was grossed out. Or if you have a younger or older brother, you might say, my brother is always trying to find new ways to gross me out. He thinks it's so funny, but I don't. He's trying to make me feel disgusted. Maybe showing me different worms that he finds or different strange things that he's doing. He thinks it's entertaining, but I don't think it is. He's trying to gross me out. Our next weird phrasal verb is to lighten up. To lighten up. Notice the pronunciation of this word, lighten, lighten. A lot of English learners ask me about T-E-N at the end of words. This might be a word like threaten, button, lighten. I have a whole English lesson about these really difficult T words in English. You can check out that lesson up here. I think it's called 106 Difficult English Words to Pronounce, and it includes these words. So we're going to kind of swallow the last sound. Lighten, lighten, to lighten up. Take a look at this sentence. The conversation was getting too serious, so I tried to lighten it up with a joke. Here we have a conversation that's very serious, and I want the conversation to become less serious. Well, the opposite of serious is light. So we're going to use this phrasal verb, I tried to lighten the conversation up, lighten it up with a joke. We can also use this phrasal verb to provide some kind of encouragement to someone else, especially for situations where they're feeling a little bit sad, but it's not too serious. So you could say, hey, lighten up, things could be worse. So let's imagine that your cat threw up on your shoe. Pretty gross, right? Well, maybe your friend says, hey, lighten up, things could be worse. Your shoe could be in the middle of a cow pasture and a cow could have pooped on your shoe. Oh, that's worse. Oh, that's awful. So your friend is trying to give some encouragement for this kind of light, not too serious situation. I definitely do not recommend using this in a serious situation. So let's imagine that your friend's dog dies. And your friend is really sad. They're having a really difficult time with this. Understandably, dogs can be like family members, right? Well, if you're trying to comfort your friend, you should not say, hey, lighten up. Maybe you can find another dog. Or, oh, lighten up. Let's go kick around a soccer ball. This is too serious of a situation, so I recommend only using it to comfort someone in a very non-serious sad moment, like a cat puked on your shoe. You're trying to make the situation funny because it's not so serious. So if you are trying to comfort in a serious situation, you can avoid lighten up. Our next weird phrasal verb is to screw up. Do you know what a screw is? It's something that you use when you're building something. But is this phrasal verb related to building? To screw up. If I say, oh, I screwed up, does it mean I'm building something? No. Instead, take a look at this sentence. I screwed up the recipe and added too much salt. Oh no. This means that I ruined the recipe. I did something awful that destroyed my meal. I screwed up the recipe. Or we could simply say, I screwed it up. Sorry guys, we're gonna have to order pizza because the meal I was making is ruined. Or you might say, if you screw up, it's best to admit your mistakes and try to make it better. If you screw up. Just a little note, this phrasal verb is very casual, so I do not recommend using this in a business situation. If you forgot about a project that you were supposed to have finished at work, do not say, sorry boss, I screwed up. It's a little too casual. Maybe if your work atmosphere is very, very laid back, very casual and relaxed, maybe you could say that, but overall I recommend using this only for daily conversations. Ugh, I screwed up. How can I make it better? Our final strange phrasal verb is to space out. Space is air, or space is outer space. Something beyond the Earth's atmosphere, the moon, the sun, Mars are in outer space. All of the stars are in outer space. To space out. Does this mean you are an astronaut? No. Instead, take a look at this sentence. I spaced out in class, and when the teacher called on me, I didn't know the answer. You can kind of imagine you're sitting in class. You're not paying attention. You're just staring off into space. That's what we say. Staring off into space. And then the teacher says, Vanessa, what's the answer? I don't know. You spaced out and you're not present. Your attention is not in that moment. Or we could say the politician's speech was so long and boring that almost all of the audience stopped paying attention and just spaced out. Maybe they looked into space or they closed their eyes. I hope that this lesson was not too boring and you didn't space out. I hope it was interesting. If you spaced out, well, now it's time for a test. So I hope that you'll be able to at least guess some of the correct answers. I'm going to be telling you 3 sentences and there will be a blank in the sentence. You need to guess what is the best phrasal verb to go in the sentence. Let's take a look at the first one. Number 1, I just saw a bear walk close to me in the dark. I'm totally flipping out, or I'm totally clamming up. What do you think is the best phrasal verb for this sentence? This actually happened to me. I was staining our deck outside. This is kind of like a paint, like an oil paint that you put on wood. And it was late at night, 9 or 10 p.m. I was just trying to finish it. And I heard a sound like that, very deep sound. And I looked up, and there, right in front of the deck, was a huge, huge bear. And where I live, bears are black. They're black bears. So in the dark, it's almost impossible to see them. Thankfully, I was on the deck, but it was a little too close to me, and I ran inside and said, Dan, that's my husband, Dan, there's a bear outside, go look. And we went out, we looked outside, the bear crossed our driveway, crossed through our front yard, and it just walked into someone else's yard. There are many bears around where I live, but it's not common to see them because usually they're shy. They don't come out in public much, except to dig through your trash and stuff like this. But the original sentence is, what do you think I did? I am totally flipping out. There's a bear. Oh my goodness, let's go see it. It was so close to me. This is a very shocking situation. All right, test sentence number 2. I should this essay because it's only one paragraph. I should scarf down this essay, or I should beef up this essay. What is the best weird phrasal verb for this sentence? I should beef up this essay because it's only one paragraph. If you gave your teacher an essay that was only one paragraph, they'd probably look at it and say, did you forget to write this? Why is it so short? So you need to improve it. You need to add more to that essay. You need to beef it up. Test sentence number 3. To speak confidently in English, I need to take a deep breath and about my mistakes and screw up about my mistakes and lighten up about my mistakes. Which weird phrasal verb feels the best? Well, you need to lighten up about your mistakes. Don't feel too serious about making mistakes. It is part of learning.
Great work learning those fun phrasal verbs. The next lesson is going to take things down a little bit more serious. You're going to learn some important phrases to talk about difficult times in life. It's great to speak English when things are going well in your life, but also when things are going badly. Let's watch.
All right, let's get started with the first category, which is some minor inconveniences or difficulties. Nothing too serious. How disappointing. This loaf of bread has already gone stale. How disappointing. My date doesn't look anything like his profile picture. How disappointing. It's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. This is especially used when there's some element of luck involved or maybe being unlucky. Let's say you bite into a cookie. I thought these were chocolate chip cookies, but they have raisins? That's unfortunate. It's just bad luck. It's not ideal. That's not ideal. You could say, there was a lot of traffic, so I took a shortcut and then I got lost. It wasn't ideal. Well, yeah, that's true. It's not the best situation. Ideal means amazing, the best. So you might say, that's not ideal. Or what about this situation? I wanted to spend the weekend relaxing, and then my mom asked me if I would help her to clean out her garage. It's not ideal, but I'll help her. This wasn't my idea of a perfect weekend, but you know what? I'll do it. It's not ideal, but I'll do it. Now, just a little note, this can be used sarcastically. Let's imagine a situation. Let's say you're driving and you accidentally hit your neighbor's trash can and it dents the front of your car and cracks your windshield. Okay, it's not ideal, but it's kind of worse than that, right? Like, this is a big deal. You have to get it fixed. It's probably going to be really expensive, and it was all your fault, and it was kind of a dumb thing too, right? So when you're telling someone what happened, they might say, that's not ideal. This is very sarcastic because of course it's not ideal. This is so obvious, right? That's not ideal. Notice the tone of my voice. The look on my face, I'm saying it in a sarcastic way. I'm saying, yeah, that was a bad thing that happened, but I'm gonna say it a little sarcastically. Yeah, that's not ideal. You shouldn't have done that. That was kind of dumb. So it can be used sarcastically too. So just pay attention to someone's tone of voice. It's discouraging. That's discouraging. My date said he would call me, but it's been 2 weeks. It's discouraging. This is the 10th date that hasn't called me back. It's discouraging. This is especially true if you are hoping for something good and then, it's so discouraging. Or if you bought some lottery tickets and you were hoping that you would win and you hear them call the winning lottery numbers and they're not yours, so you could say, that's so discouraging. I buy lottery tickets every day and I still haven't won. Maybe it's a sign that you shouldn't buy lottery tickets. Well, personal choice. The next set of 3 words is very casual. Don't use this in the workplace, but in other situations, it's fine. You could say, nuts, crap, dang it. Has this ever happened to you? You thought you were putting sugar in your food, maybe it's your tea or your coffee, or even a cake that you're making, and then you look and say, crap, it's salt. You don't want to substitute salt for sugar. So you can use these for minor inconveniences. Nuts. This is very polite, more polite. Then we have crap. That's what I say the most. And then there's dang it, which is a euphemism. This means a slightly kinder or softer word instead of saying a bad word, which is damn it. So if you put salt in your tea instead of sugar, you can say dang it. And it's okay to say that with children or maybe with your family. If you don't want your kids to repeat it, well, maybe don't say it around them, but it is certainly much nicer than the swear word. Another casual expression is, oh man. This is especially when you're disappointed. You might say, oh man, I ordered a burger and fries and they gave me a salad instead. Oh man. Let's say it's the beginning of winter. This has happened to me many times. I open up my drawer of sweaters and I pick up my favorite sweater. Oh man, there's a little hole in it. How did that happen? I didn't touch it all winter. Oh man, this is disappointing. The next one is also casual. That sucks. This is also kind of a little bit rude. I would say when I was a kid, my parents told me, that's not a nice word, don't say it. But as an adult, people use it pretty flippantly. That means casually and comfortably all the time. So I would say avoid it at work, but with friends or with family, it's okay. If you're a kid, it's not really that great, but if you're an adult, it's fine. Let's imagine that you're watching your favorite football team in the championship and they lose. You say, my favorite team lost. That sucks. You're disappointed. You could also use this to potentially comfort someone. So if your friend is hoping to get a promotion, you could say, I'm sorry you didn't get the promotion you wanted. That sucks. I hope you get it next time. So it seems like it could be used for really shallow situations, your team losing, maybe that's very serious for you, or for more serious situations to express care and empathy. Oh man, that sucks. I'm sorry. It's a bummer. That's a bummer. I use this one a lot. Let's say you want to go to the beach and it's raining. That's a bummer. You booked this trip. You were so excited and now it's going to rain all week. Sorry, that's a bummer. The next one is a fun one. Oh, come on, seriously? You can use this when you are annoyed and frustrated. Let's imagine you might say, come on, seriously? I break down in the middle of nowhere and then it starts to rain and I'm late for my job interview. Come on, seriously? You are questioning the motives of the universe. Come on, seriously? I would recommend not saying this to other people and only saying this to yourself, because if you said this to someone else, let's imagine that your coworker spills coffee on her white shirt and it's messy all day. You wouldn't want to say to her, come on, seriously? Because you would be telling her, you are such a clumsy person. Why do you do that? It's quite negative. You're telling the other person you're a bad person. That's not so nice, but you can say it to yourself. Come on, seriously. Why did this happen to me? Come on, seriously. Another fun one is, you gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. They fired you because your classes were too fun? You gotta be kidding me. This might or might not have happened to me. You gotta be kidding me. Or what about this situation? She broke up with you because she said her cat didn't like you? You gotta be kidding me. Can you see in all of these situations, you are shocked. You are outraged. You gotta be kidding me. This is a phrase that you can say to someone else if you want to share their shock. So if your friend says, yeah, he broke up with me because he said his cat didn't like me, you can reply, you gotta be kidding me. That's the most shallow reason to break up with someone. What was he thinking? You gotta be kidding me. Before we go on to our seriously difficult situation expressions, let's talk about one final melodramatic phrase. Why? God, why? So this one, you can sense the drama. Let's imagine that you, like I mentioned before, accidentally put salt into your tea instead of sugar. But you also have woken up late. You have a job interview. You're just feeling generally pretty bad. You woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and then you put salt into your tea. You might say, why? God, why? Why is everything going wrong today? You're kind of appealing to the universe. Why? Why is everything against me today? So make sure you use this one for not so serious situations, but just when you want to be overly dramatic. And now let's go on to some phrases you can use for seriously difficult situations, whether it's to talk about yourself or to comfort someone else and to talk about what they're going through. It's too bad. That's too bad. You lost your job? That's too bad. That doesn't mean you did something wrong. It just means in general, I am sympathizing with your hard time. That's too bad. Now, just a little note, this can be used with a sarcastic tone of voice. So let's take a look at this situation. Let's say you're talking about a couple and you hear that they have broken up. You might say, oh, they broke up? That's too bad. Okay, well, you can see by my face, I'm not exactly devastated about this news. Possibly I predicted that they would break up, or possibly I am interested in one of those people who is now newly single. So you might say, oh, that's too bad that they broke up. So your words and your tone of voice are very different. So this is something you need to watch out for in English, is when someone's tone doesn't match their words. Oh, that's too bad. Oh, I got a big smile on my face, so I'm not really sad. I'm just saying the thing that's socially appropriate, but really, that's not how I feel. It's a shame. That's a shame. She wanted to be a professional figure skater, and then she broke her leg. That's a shame. It's just something that's disappointing and sad. Possibly life-changing, or just a big roadblock. You might say he wanted to be a lawyer, and then he didn't pass the bar exam. And he just gave up. He decided not to take it again. That's a shame. It's a pity. That's a pity. It's a pity you have to move away for your new job. I was really loving being your neighbor. You can't have cats in your apartment? That's such a pity. I know how much you love your cats. So here in this situation, it's pretty serious, right? Well, either someone's moving away, they can't keep their pet, or in the previous expression, it's a shame. It's quite serious as well. So these two, make sure you don't use in lighthearted situations. It's a shame or it's a pity are for serious things. It's awful. That's awful. He asked for a divorce on your anniversary? That's awful. I'm so sorry. It's very strong, very serious, and pretty big thing, huh? You could also say, I spilled coffee on my shirt, I was late on the way to work, and I got fired. That's awful. Yes, this is really, truly awful. The final three expressions are for extremely serious situations. You can say, it's devastating. That's devastating. To be devastated means you can kind of imagine you're just on the floor. You can't move for weeks. Everything in your life is terrible, or there's something that's so bad that you can't function normally. It's devastating. So if someone that you love dies, it's devastating. Maybe if someone tells you about some really tragic thing that happened to them, yeah, my grandma died and she was just totally fine, and she all of a sudden, and they tell you the story, you could say, that's devastating. I'm so sorry. So you're using this word in the accurate situation where there is something that is completely difficult for someone else, and you're acknowledging that. And that might make them feel validated or heard. And it can be good to use this word only in very serious situations. It's devastating. I can't believe that this happened. If someone tells you something tragic, let's imagine that same situation, that someone's grandma dies. What can you say? The most common thing to say is, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry to hear that. Is there anything I can help you with? Hey, can I bring you some food tomorrow? I'm so sorry to hear that. But you could also add on to this, I'm so sorry to hear that your grandma died. I'm so sorry to hear that you have to move to another state and you really don't want to. I'm so sorry to hear that, plus the thing. This is great to write in a card too, because often in these devastating or tragic situations, we write a letter or write a card to someone and give it to them. Those are the special moments when something physical really touches and means a lot. So this is a good expression you can write. I'm sorry to hear that your grandmother passed away. I'd like to stop by tomorrow and bring you some food. This is great. So kind. Our final expression for talking about difficult situations is, I can't imagine. Now, this is short for a fuller expression. I can't imagine what it must feel like to have your grandmother die. Of course, you don't understand because it's not your grandmother. You haven't been in that situation. But to say that full expression is less common. It's more common to just say, I can't imagine. It must be really tough for you right now. I'd like to help bring you some food tomorrow. Or can I walk your dog for you? I can't imagine. Let me help you.
Great work learning those English phrases for difficult times. Are you ready? It is now time for our final lesson of this English masterclass. You are going to learn 10 essential advanced English phrases. So strap on your English vocabulary helmet and get ready for the end of the ride. Let's go.
All right, let's get started with the first essential advanced English phrase. Phrase number 1, nothing wrong with that, or nothing wrong with. Let's imagine that you're in school and a bully says, where'd you get your hair cut? Did you trip and some scissors cut your hair? This is very rude, very mean. And so your friend might say to you, don't listen to those bullies. There is nothing wrong with your haircut. So this is a comforting or consoling way to help someone feel better. There is nothing wrong with your haircut. Don't listen to that rude person. Or you might say, there's nothing wrong with not following every fashion trend. Maybe you like a classic style of clothing, something that will be in fashion forever, so you don't follow yearly fashion trends. Well, you might say, yeah, there's nothing wrong with not following every fashion trend. I dress the way that I want to dress. Advanced phrase number 2 is a man of few words. You might say, my grandfather is a man of few words, so when he speaks, I give him my full attention. Can you imagine what this means? It means someone who doesn't speak much, but when they speak, they have a lot of importance in their words. Maybe they are a person of action instead of a person of words. Now, in this phrase, it says a man of few words, and let's be honest, it is often men who are this type of person, but of course we could use this for women as well. Let's take a look at this sentence. My boss is a man of few words, so when he gave me a compliment, I felt really proud. He doesn't say much. He is a man of few words, but he gave me a compliment. Wow. He said my presentation was really organized and helpful. This really was a high value to me. That meant a lot to me because he doesn't say much. So when he says things, it's so valuable. He is a man of few words. Essential phrase number 3 is the be-all and end-all. Take a look at this sentence and try to guess what you think it means. Some people think that money is the be-all and end-all. Or we could say some people think that money is the be-all and end-all in life. What do you think this means? It means that this is the most absolutely important thing in life. Sometimes this phrase can be changed. There's a couple different ways to say this phrase. We might say money is the be-all and end-all. I don't exactly agree with that, but that's our sample statement here. Or we could say love is the be-all and end-all. Or we could say love is the end-all and be-all. So here we're switching those two phrases. Or we could take out the word and completely and say love is the end-all, be-all, or the be-all, end-all in life. So there's a couple different ways that you might hear this. My recommendation is our original expression, love is the be-all and end-all in life. You can use that full phrase, but you might hear it in a couple different ways. Here's another sample sentence. I thought that the actor was the be-all, end-all until I realized that he was rude to his manager, and then I stopped caring about him. So that means that I thought this actor was the best, the most amazing person, or the most amazing actor, celebrity, until I learned some bad news about his character or his personality. In the sentence, I just said, he is the be-all, end-all. Great, but we could use any of those other variations too. I'm curious to know, what do you think is the be-all and end-all in life? Let me know in the comments. Essential phrase number 4 is to hit close to home. We're going to think about this in a figurative sense, and I'd like to explain how this phrase was used in the listening challenge course, and then you can get kind of a better picture for it. So in the listening challenge, we heard a clip from a speaker. Her name is Alicia, and she works in a fabric mill or in a fiber mill. This is a business that's close to my home, and I was talking with her, and this is where she works. She works with fiber or materials like wool every day. This is her business or her job. Well, she heard about a fabric or fiber mill collapse in Bangladesh. Maybe you remember this. I think it was back in 2011. It's called the Rana Plaza factory collapse, a really tragic situation. And it was a similar business, but in Bangladesh. So it was a similar type of job that she has. Her job is a good job, it's safe, she loves this job, but the same type of job that was happening in Bangladesh ended in tragedy for these people. So for Alicia, when she heard about that factory collapse and over 1,000 people died in that collapse, well, she might say, that factory collapse hit close to home for me. She doesn't live in Bangladesh. She doesn't know anyone who lives in Bangladesh. She doesn't know anyone who works at that factory. But because she feels connected to those people because they have the same job, well, that tragedy was kind of a deeper level of sadness for her. It hit close to home. Let's take a look at another example. The movie about a sick grandmother hit close to home for me because my grandmother recently passed away. In this situation, there is something similar to my personal life circumstance. A movie about a sick grandmother, well, maybe for other people it's sad, but it's just a movie. But for me, that was very personal. It was another level in me because of something that happened in my personal life. So my grandmother passed away, and then when I watched this movie, it hit close to home. It reminded me of a personal situation in my life. So you can use this if something happens that is not really connected to you, but is kind of a sad situation or a tragic situation, but you feel like, oh, that could have been me, or oh, that reminds me of a sad time in my life. There is a connection to you from this event that's not necessarily part of your life. It hits close to home. All right, let's go to our next expression. Expression number 5 is to last. We might say to last a long time, or that won't last. For example, we could say, you should eat some brownies now. They're so good, they won't last. This means that this dessert, these brownies, which are kind of like chocolate cake in a way. These brownies are so good that everyone is going to take them. And if you wait 5 minutes, there will be no brownies left. So we said they won't last. They are not going to endure. They're not going to remain. They won't last, so get them while you can. Or we could say, I didn't expect the snow to last, but it hasn't melted yet. For me, where I live in the south of the US, when it snows, usually within 2 or 3 days, the sun is too hot and all of the snow melts. So it's not common to have snow for 1 week at a time. This is just typical of the South and the US where I live. So we might say, I didn't expect the snow to last. I didn't expect the snow to remain or to endure, but it hasn't melted yet. It's been a week. This is pretty unusual. I didn't expect the snow to last. We could say this also about a relationship. I didn't expect their relationship to last, but they've been dating for 2 years now. Or we could say, I hope that our relationship will last. I hope it will endure or remain for a long time. I hope our relationship will last. I hope your passion for English will last a long time. Essential advanced expression number 6 is what goes on. There's a couple different ways that we can use this. We might use it in a question. What is going on here? Or we might use it in the past and say, what went on? Let me give you a couple examples. In the 30-day English listening challenge, the speaker, David, is a lawyer, and he explained that when you're a lawyer, there's some things that you can't see. There's some experiences that you are not allowed to be part of in the courtroom. In the US court situation, there is a jury. This is kind of a complicated system to explain here in a YouTube video, but it's like a normal citizens. Maybe if you've watched some court dramas or court movies, you know about this. It's like 12 people usually who are normal citizens, like me. I'm not a lawyer, and they are kind of like the judges of the case. So if there is a crime, the judge and the jury are trying to figure out if the crime is true or not, what's happening. But a lawyer cannot listen to what the jury is saying. So the jury has some private conversations together, and the lawyer is not allowed to listen to that. It might affect the way that the lawyer talks or behaves. So in the listening challenge, David said this sentence: I want to see what goes on in the jury room, but lawyers aren't allowed in. So for him, he is very curious about what is happening or what goes on in the jury room. So here we can just exchange goes on for happening. What is happening in the jury room? What goes on? Let's take a look at another example. I asked my son, what is going on here, when I caught him playing instead of taking a nap. So we could exchange the word happening. What is happening here? When you're surprised about something, what's happening here? Or you could use this wonderful phrase and say, what's going on here? What's going on here? If we want to use this in the past tense, maybe you walk into your house and everything is a mess. You could use the present tense and say, what is going on here? Or we could use it in the past because something obviously happened in the past in your house to make it a mess. And you might say, oh no, what went on here? Something crazy must have happened. So this is a great phrase to be able to integrate into your daily conversations. Advanced expression number 7 is on either ends of the spectrum. There's a couple different ways that we can modify this expression. In fact, it's a great way to advance your vocabulary if you know kind of a core expression and then some modifications. You're able to use all of them even though you've pretty much just learned one expression. So we can say on both ends of the spectrum, on opposite ends of the spectrum, on the other end of the spectrum, or our original expression on either ends of the spectrum. So here the idea is that we have a scale. On one side, we have an item or an idea, and on the other side, it's the opposite. Let me give you a sample sentence. My husband's taste in movies is on the other side of the spectrum from mine. He likes sci-fi movies, and I like historical dramas. So sci-fi, science fiction, is the opposite of historical dramas, give or take. So here we're talking about the other side of the spectrum. Or we could use one of the other expressions and say, we are on either side of the spectrum. We are on opposite sides of the spectrum. Or we might say, my friend loves going to loud parties, but I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum because I like to stay home and read a good book. We have a scale here, loud parties and staying home and reading a book. These are quite opposites, right? So we might say, you are on the opposite side of the spectrum, or you are on the other side of the spectrum. What a beautiful phrase. Essential advanced phrase number 8 is to perfect something. Perfect something. Notice this pronunciation, perfect. The final part of this phrase is what we're going to emphasize. Perfect. Can you say that with me? Perfect. Perfect. Let me give you a sample sentence. My dad is always perfecting his apple pie recipe. That means he's always trying to make it better. Does this word look like another word to you? Does it look like the word perfect? Ooh, yes, this is the same spelling and it's kind of a similar idea, but when we use this as a verb to perfect something, there is a different emphasis in pronunciation. So let's practice this. My dad is perfecting his apple pie recipe. The emphasis is on the end of this word. But if you say, I want to speak perfect English, well, the emphasis is on the beginning of that word, perfect. I want to speak perfect English. The emphasis is at the beginning. So make sure that that emphasis is correct in order to say this word accurately. All right, let's look at another sentence. My son learned a new song and he is trying to perfect it. So he sings it all the time. He's trying to make his singing better and memorizing the lyrics, all of this. He's trying to perfect it. Perfect it. In my opinion, this is a better verb to use with English than saying, I want to speak perfect English. I would rather you say, I am trying to perfect my English. That means you're just trying to make it better. You don't have the unrealistic expectation that someday your English will be absolutely perfect. This is kind of overwhelming and stressful to think that. But instead, if you have the mindset that I'm just going to improve my English, well, great. You can perfect your English every day. That is a journey that continues. Do you think you can say that sentence with me? I want to perfect my English. I want to perfect my English. And congratulations, that's what you're doing here in this video today. Let's go to the next expression. Phrase number 9 is to see if. We use this all the time, so I want to make sure that you can use it correctly. We might say, I wanted to see if the roads were cleared of snow, so I slowly drove through my neighborhood. Okay, you were just checking something. You're verifying something. I wanted to see if the roads were safe to drive on, if they were clear of snow, so I did a little tiny drive around my neighborhood. We can also use this to kind of investigate or ask a question. You might say, yeah, I wanted to see if you were interested in ordering pizza. I wanted to see if you wanted to order pizza. You're kind of asking, hey, do you want to order pizza? I wanted to see if you wanted to order pizza. So I use this commonly when I'm texting or calling someone. I might say, hey, yeah, I'm calling because I wanted to see if you could come to my house today. I wanted to see if you're done with that project. I wanted to see if you're checking or verifying something. Our final 10th essential advanced English phrase that we're going to learn today is there's no such thing. There's no such thing. The most common phrase with this is there's no such thing as a free lunch. This phrase is not only talking about free food, a free lunch. Instead, we use this expression in general to talk about If something is free, usually there's a hidden cost. Maybe you need to pay later, or maybe they'll send you an advertisement, or there's something hidden that's happening. So if a company comes up to you and says, hey, yeah, we're doing some free estimates to see if your windows are secure and they're insulated well, you might think, they're doing a free estimate, but there's no such thing as a free lunch, so probably I'll get a lot of phone calls from them asking if they can fix my windows. So really, it's not possible to have only something for free. Or we could say, I used to think that there's no such thing as a sea monster, but then I saw some pretty scary looking animals that live deep down in the ocean. There's no such thing as a sea monster. This doesn't exist. Well, unless you've seen some of those very strange animals that live at the bottom of the ocean.
Well, congratulations! You just spent the last 2 hours learning over 250 important daily life English vocabulary phrases. What's the next step? Well, I highly recommend downloading this English Vocabulary Masterclass ebook. It includes all of today's vocabulary, definitions, sample sentences, tips, concepts, ideas, and at the bottom of the ebook, you can answer the 20-question quiz. Test yourself and see if you can really understand what you learned today. You can click on the link in the description to download this free ebook today. It is my gift to you. It is extremely long, and it is something wonderful to help you reach your English goals. You can click on the link in the description, and it will be yours in your inbox today. Well, thank you so much for learning English with me, and I'll see you again next Friday for a new lesson here on my YouTube channel. Bye! But wait, do you want more? I recommend watching this video next, where you will learn 30 ways to say yes, no, and I don't know, including one that is very strange. Do you know what means in English? Well, if you don't, I'll see you in that video to find out.